My name is Phoebe Mercer. I'm 28 years old and I have photographed 11 Easter I was never in. This year, my family didn't even hand me the camera. They took the picture at 10 o'clock and told me to come at 11 o'clock. I found out from the pastel sweaters. Everyone matched. Nobody had mentioned a color. I set my delied eggs on the counter and smiled, because smiling was my job in that house, the way carving the ham was my dad's. But this year, a stranger's comment under my sister's Instagram post was about to crack my family open like one of those eggs. And the message a retired nurse sent me at midnight. I still keep a copy of it in a locked drawer. What she knew about me, my own mother, had spent 28 years burying. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories, where family secrets come to light and quiet women find their voice. Every week we share stories about the moment a woman stops asking for a seat at the table and builds her own. If stories like this one speak to you, drop a comment below and be sure to subscribe. Easter at my parents' house ran on a schedule I was never given. I arrived at 11 with my tray of de-lulled eggs and found the whole family already posed and finished. Lilia's on the porch, my mom's good tablecloth ironed flat as a hymn book. My sister Brianna was still holding the photographer's invoice. "You're here. Perfect timing." "The light got weird anyway," she said, which was her way of saying the picture was done. I know how this sounds. You're wondering why a grown woman kept showing up. Here's the honest answer. My grandmother, Ruth, has Parkinson's. I'm the only nurse in the family. And I coordinate every specialist, every prescription, every fall. You don't get to quit people who need your hands, even when they only invite the rest of you at 11. So, I did what I always did. I refilled glasses. I cut the ham when my dad's shoulder acted up. I apologized to my aunt for a draft I didn't cause. By 8 that night, I was home in my duplex across town, scrubbing egg yolk off a tray when Brianna posted the photo. Pastel sweaters, white chairs, the caption, the whole family together. I counted heads the way you count pills. Out of habit, 17 people. Every cousin twice removed made that photograph. I stared at it longer than I should have, and I was about to close the app when a new comment appeared under the post from an account with a white lily for a profile picture. 5 o'clock somewhere. Some stranger typing in the dark. The comment said, "Where's the girl from the hospital?" I read it twice. My thumb went cold on the screen. I had no idea what it meant, but somehow my body did. I refreshed the page. The comment was gone. I refreshed again and the whole post was gone. 17 pastel people vanished. I checked the time. From comment to deletion took about 40 seconds. 40 seconds at 9 on a Sunday night, which meant somebody in that house had been watching that post like a monitor in an ICU. I called my mom because pretending not to know things is a skill I never mastered. "Sweet of you to call," she said in the voice she uses on telemarketers. I asked light as I could. Why Brianna took the photo down. There was a pause with furniture in it, a chair scraping somewhere, a door closing. The lighting was unflattering to your grandmother. My mom has explained away 30 years of things with lighting. I said someone had commented something strange, something about a hospital. The silence that came back was different. It wasn't empty. It was low-bearing. When she finally spoke, her voice had dropped into a register I'd only heard twice in my life, both times at funerals. "Some pictures aren't for everyone, sweetheart." Then she said goodnight and hung up. And I stood in my kitchen holding a dish towel like it was going to explain something. Here's what I knew about my mother, Lorraine Mercer. She kept photo albums organized by year. She ironed sweaters. She had never once in my memory moved fast. People like that don't delete a photograph in 40 seconds. People like that don't move fast unless something is chasing them. I dried the tray. I turned off the light. I told myself it was church lady drama. Someone's feud about a casserole. You don't delete a picture that fast unless it touches something buried very deep. And I just watched my family reach for a shovel. At 11:47 that night, my phone lit up with a message request from a woman named Carol W. No mutual follows. Profile photo of a garden. I almost deleted it. Then I read it and the kitchen got very quiet. I was your nurse 20 years ago. Your parents told us you died at birth. I just saw you on Instagram. I have something you need to see. I read it 5 times, standing barefoot on cold linoleum. My first reaction wasn't fear. I'm a hospice nurse. I've been on shift for enough 3 in the morning phone calls that my hands stay steady out of spite. My first reaction was procedure. I checked her profile the way I'd check a chart. Carol Wetzel, Toledo, Ohio, retired RN, pediatrics, St. Bridges Regional. 41 photos of tomatoes and grandkids going back 9 years. Nobody builds a 9-year garden account to run a scam. One mutual connection. Dr. Patel, a physician I'd worked hospice cases with, a man who doesn't friend strangers. So, the person was real, which made the words worse. Your parents told us you died at birth. I sat down on my kitchen floor, which I'd like to say was a choice. Because here's the thing that stranger couldn't have known. The thing that made my skin go tight. I did spend time at St. Bridget's, 5 weeks of it when I was 8 years old. Bacterial meningitis, a fever that cooked the edges off my memories. Around our church for years afterward, that's what I was. Not Phoebe who got straight A's. Not Phoebe who became a nurse. The girl from the hospital. I'd always thought that chapter of my life was closed. Apparently, someone had just found a page I'd never been allowed to read. I didn't sleep. I lay in bed doing inventory on the year I was 8, holding each memory up to the light like a syringe. 5 weeks at St. Bridges Regional up in Toledo, 40 minutes from our town. A tube in my hand, a ceiling tile with a water stain shaped like a rabbit. My mom came during visiting hours, never outside them, always with her camera bag on her shoulder, and she never took it out. I asked her once to take a picture of me and the rabbit stain because I was 8 and dying to be documented. She looked at me like I'd asked her to shoplift. We don't photograph sickness, Phoebe. At the time, I filed it with her other laws, like no elbows on the table. But lying there at 3 o'clock in the morning, 20 years later, a different memory surfaced when the fever had half melted. A night when my temperature spiked, voices outside my door, low and furious. My mother's voice and a stranger's, and one word rising out of the murmur again and again, like a splinter working its way out of skin. Paperwork. Paperwork. I'd always assumed it was about insurance. Now I got up, turned on every light in the duplex, and pulled out the shoebox of pictures I'd taken from my parents' house when I moved out at 22. Brianna as a newborn. Dozens of photos, hospital bracelet, red-faced, screaming, adored. Me? I went through it twice. The earliest photograph of me that exists shows a toddler already steady on her feet standing at the edge of a cousin pile in somebody's backyard. 14 months old, maybe more. There is no picture of me as a newborn. There is no picture of my mother pregnant with me. I had never once noticed, and now it was all I could see. Tuesday, I drove to my parents' house while my mom was at her Women's Guild meeting because my grandmother Ruth needed her blood pressure checked, and I needed an alibi, and only one of those was on the calendar. Grandma Ruth lives in the converted den, 84 years old, Parkinson's slowly sanding her down. While her cuff inflated, I said I wanted to pull some old photos for her birthday next month. And she waved a trembling hand toward the hall closet like a queen granting lands. The albums stood in a row, spines labeled in my mother's handwriting. 1995, 96, 97, Brianna's year, fat with baby pictures, then 1998, my year. I pulled it down and it felt wrong in my hands. Too light, like a hollowed book people hide keys in. Inside, the first few pages were normal. New Year's. My dad walked in a terrible sweater. Then, where spring should have been, ragged edges, pages torn out at the gutter, glue still holding little triangles of paper, a whole season amputated. Someone hadn't just removed photos. Someone had removed the places where photos go. I stood in that hallway hearing my own pulse, and I carried the album into Ruth, keeping my voice church soft. "Grandma, look what I found." She reached out and touched the cover, and her face did something I will never forget. It opened the way faces